This story takes place in, I'd say, 2009 to sometime in 2010. He isn't actually my ex, but at the time, he was in a relationship with my best friend. Things were fine at first. They'd talked on the phone a lot, as well as us hanging out in one big group pretty often. I was seeing one of his friends at the time, and we weren't really into the hanging out alone stages yet, so mostly we would just all hang out together. There are a lot of good memories from that time, but it was around that point that we started to drift off into more alone time and less group time that things started to go bad. For one, the guy always scared me. I'd never admit it, and definitely not to his face, but he was intimidating. A little while after he and my friend started going out, he told me he was going to punch me in the face if I didn't stop looking at him. And ever since then, he kind of put the fear of God in me. But as much as he scared me, I hated him more. The first time he ever hit her, she called me crying her eyes out. He kicked her off of him into the dresser and she didn't know what to do. But of course, as with all abusive relationships, that was hardly the end of it. Certain parts of their relationship were good, certain parts were bad, but he always swore up and down that he was sorry and that he loved her. Somehow, he always managed to talk her into coming back, even when they did not break up. Our other friends and I started to notice bruises all over her, ones that she would tell us were from play fighting. But if that was really the case, he had to have been being pretty rough with her nonetheless. When she wanted to go and hang out with the rest of us, he would hold her down on the ground and refuse to let her leave. For hours, eventually she'd cave and stay with him, and he'd finally let her up. Once we were all at his house, he punched her right through a radio and scared the crap out of all of us. Another night, I had to sit there and watch the two of them nearly get into a fist fight right there on the street. When I think back to all of it, I really wish I would have dropped the ruse of supportive friend and told her flat out that he was scum. My disapproval was always known, but I mostly stayed silent about it. It wasn't like I could change her mind anyway, but I still wish I had done more. One night, a number I did not recognize called the house, and I picked up to find that it was him on the other line. He told me she was in the hospital because she accidentally hit her abdomen off of his dresser, and her spleen busted. The bullshit excuse and the tone of his voice sold out his lies pretty quickly, but I didn't flat out accuse him of anything. But everyone, nurses, doctors, her family, her friends, everyone had their suspicions it was him who had done it. I never confronted her, but I still know. I just figured she'd tell me when she was ready. 6 or so months after the fact, she finally did. They had been wrestling, he had gotten mad, and he shoved her into the dresser. Apparently when she started screaming due to the pain, he was pretty adamant she was faking and refused to take her to the hospital until his parents intervened. To this day, he tells everybody it was a lie and that he never abused her. His family is all on his side, but as for me, I know the truth because for half of it, I was right there. I know what kind of person he is. I just wish that the rest of the world could know too. Today, he's got a girlfriend, a baby girl, and another child on the way. While I'm scared for the girlfriend and the kid, I just hope the next one's a boy so it can kick his ass like he deserves. Then again, someone like that should not ever have kids in the first place. Before I begin, I must clear a few things. I am a 15-year-old girl, and I have just moved away from a town that was hell to me. And I have an insane perverted ex that I might have seen yesterday at my local park. Last year, my ex-boyfriend of a year and a half and I broke up before I left. We broke up because he was just too much to handle. Now, some of you might judge and stuff, but I was 14 and he was 16. We met through Facebook and met up for a movie. I was desperate and so was he. So we hit it off right away and started going out from then on. As we continued on dating at first, he was nice, sweet guy who would do anything to keep a smile on my face. But then he turned into a perverted jerk. We would be at his house or mine, and most of the time no one would be around but us. Obviously, he got the feeling of excitement and tried to have his way with me. I tried to ignore it and not bother with his need. but he keeps asking and pushing me to say yes, but I continue to say no. He wouldn't stop till I gave in. Also, during our relationship, I noticed he wasn't a tough guy, like he brags about being. He would act like a total girl, and I guess he doesn't know how to be a man. One time, we were laying in bed watching movies, and he says, "You wouldn't mind being the man of this relationship?" he asked with a stupid smile. I asked him, "What do you mean?" Obviously, I was confused at this strange question. "Oh, it's just, I want to be the girl in the relationship." I was stunned by his remark. I mean, seriously, a dude asking his girlfriend to be the man of a relationship? Next, he would scare me and laugh like he had made the funniest joke ever. We were watching The Exorcist, and I guess I was jumpy back then. As the movie ended, he screamed in my face, making me cry like a baby. All he did was laugh and pointing as I was frickin' crying. Not just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," and hugging me. I was angry at him for it. Another time, we were walking on the side of the road from the store, I think, and I guess we were talking about fighting and stuff. Out of nowhere, he punches me in my arm so hard I nearly fell on the ground. I got up and asked why on earth would he do that. He just shrugged it off and asked, "Do you want to feel my hardness now?" I backed away from him and said nothing. In the middle or end of our hell relationship, he was so aggressive, controlling, and mean. He stole my favorite Nightmare Before Christmas pen that I got from my mom, told me my art was crap, and shoved other people's artwork in my face and said, "This is how you should draw." Annoyed my cat to the point she scratches him and he hits her. He asked me to start a family with him and marry him. At that spot, tell other girls that I could kick their ass, when really I was not skilled. Judged me for who I am every single day. When I was having the time of the month, and it was the painful ones where you couldn't move at all, he came in my room and started arguing with me and making me get up and said I looked like crap. Whenever he would come visit me, he would make messes in my room, kitchen, living room, and bathroom, and not even clean up after himself. Now I am better off without him. After that relationship, I decided to stay single and focus on more important things than that. He just sucked the love interest out of me. I now realize he was a horrible guy with problems and didn't know how to treat women. Now I am miles and miles away from him. I thought I was safe and ready to start fresh when yesterday I saw him skateboarding at the park, and I was leaving to go home. A tall man with bleached blonde hair wearing a jacket and navy blue scrubs walks directly at me, staring. As we pass each other, I freak out and told my mom about it. She isn't sure because he wouldn't know where we live or what I look like. I tried to relax and explain to myself that he wouldn't know where we live. We told no one our address except our close friends and family members. I am now freaked out and unable to sleep, waiting for him to break in or something. I don't know what I should do. Thank you, and please send some advice for me. I am scared and angry. My sister had been dating this guy for 3 years. She told me that in 8th grade, he stalked her. Just staring at her in the halls and asking about her schedule. I met him about a week after she told me this story. He seemed nice at the time. We talked a bit, and then he asked me if I wanted to play Call of Duty. We played for about an hour and had some laughs. I didn't find anything off-putting. He seemed to be a generally nice guy. However, that was 3 years ago, and these past years, he has been getting weirder and weirder, and more obsessive. As in, he would constantly call my sister to ask what she was doing, and filled her phone with hundreds of texts when she didn't reply immediately. They had multiple breakups and arguments over these years. Just a few days ago, my sister's friend came to us hysterical, stating that he had threatened her life. but they are still together to this day. She also stated he probably had bugged my sister's car and phone because he knows all the texts she has sent, and showed up at her house when my sister's car was parked in the driveway. He did not even know where she lived. I am convinced too that her car is being traced. He even managed to track us down when we were with my grandparents on vacation. This all changed about 2 days before our vacation to California. I'm one of those people who stay up really late at night, even though it's a school day the next morning. I usually just binge watch videos on my computer while laying in bed. It was about 12 midnight on Saturday when I heard a faint screech. The sound sounded vague and distant. Then I heard a soft sound on my garage door opening. I assumed it was my sister coming home late, like my dad predicted. He left the garage door unlocked because he expected her to come home late. I heard smooth and soft footsteps walking up the wooden stairs, and then a shallow grunt. The footsteps slowly moved throughout the upstairs while I paused my video and sat up in fear. My sister would usually not care about being so quiet and went straight to the bathroom to take off her makeup. The soft footsteps ensued. I would now like to mention that I do have a lock on my door. I convinced my dad to get me one 2 years ago because I am paranoid about someone attacking me by simply opening the unlocked door. I could hear the floorboards creak as the footsteps neared my door. I heard a hand graze the frame of my door and grasped the knob tightly. I held my breath, and my hand started to reach towards the wooden baseball bat I had under my bed. The doorknob turned slightly, but the lock restricted it from turning all the way. The intruder on the other side jiggled it a bit and seized. I grabbed my baseball bat and gradually made my way towards my door. I saw 2 gray shoes inches away from my door. I raised my bat defensively, ready to whack whoever picked the lock or busted down my door. The shoes slowly turned and strided away from my door. My sister's door opened, and a few moments later, I heard footsteps exiting and steadily walked down the creaking and protesting stairs. I dropped my bat to my waist and walked back to my bed. I pulled a chair to barricade my door, just in case, and breathed silently to calm down. My phone was out of battery, so I couldn't call the police, and my mom and dad were on the other side of the house. I would make a mad dash for my parents' room, or I could just scream at the top of my lungs and hope that they wake up before the intruder gets to me. It may also scare him off by me alerting my parents. So I screamed. About a minute later, I heard heavy footsteps rushing over and unlocking my door. My dad opened the door with a look of complete concern and dread. He asked me if I was okay, and I told him there was someone in the house. He grabbed my bat and hurried downstairs. He came back up a few minutes later after checking all the closets and general hiding places. He ordered me to go back to bed and lock my door. I was wide awake for half an hour, but eventually, somehow dozed off. I woke up to find my dad talking to my mom in the hallway. He told me the garage was pried open with some kind of rusty tool or crowbar. The intruder had left a note in my sister's room saying he didn't know where she was and that he missed her. I knew immediately that it was her boyfriend. What disturbed me the most was when I looked at my phone. It had a new message I had wrote a message to a number I have never seen before, late at night. The only problem was I hadn't texted anyone last night, and there was a response. It read, "Merry Christmas." There's one problem with this. I haven't sent a message to anyone with this number in my life. And my phone, it was in my room last night. "10 years ago, I dated this guy, David. I don't talk much about David, only to my current partner and very close friends. Talking about him makes me nervous. When David and I met, I was only 17, and he was a post-secondary student in his early 20s. Being a near-homeless gay teenager dropout with raging hormones, a complicated home life, and limited dating prospects, I jumped into a relationship with him. Our relationship progressed very rapidly, and I moved into his Toronto apartment after only a month of dating. I was young and inexperienced with relationships. David was a horrible guy, of course. In the beginning, it was great. We were in love, very much so, but after a few months, that began to change. One night after our first minor fight over laundry, I got a glimpse of how angry he could really get over a simple matter. That night, I had a dream in which he held a pillow against my face, smothering me until I asphyxiated, his facial expressions contorted in terrifying ways, morphing into the face of a demon. In hindsight, this dream was trying to tell me something. I should have trusted my instincts. 6 months into our relationship, he no longer hid these parts of himself. See, David has a bipolar disorder and ignored his diagnosis. In retrospect, I can confidently say he is a sociopath as well. As a teenager, I was not equipped to deal with this. He was incredibly manipulative, eventually keeping me away from my friends and family, especially male co-workers. He stole money from me and put his bills and debts in my name without my consent. He would gaslight me on the strangest things, trying to convince me I was a horrible person. He constantly accused me of cheating, almost daily by the end. He would fly off the handle suddenly. He was often physically violent as well. I can't exactly remember how long I continued in this relationship. It is a part of my life I try hard to forget, but it was around 2 years, maybe a little more. On my first attempt to leave him, he followed me. As I left during the night, I passed through a well-lit city park on my way to a friend's place. Before I knew it, I was on the ground with David on top of me, hands around my throat. Thankfully, a passerby came to my aid. Don't ask me why I didn't report him for any of this. I was very confused. I really thought he was going to kill me. I did not tell anyone about that night for years after. He attacked me once more shortly after I left him, when we bumped into each other at a party. I find out later that he had been cheating on me the entire time we were together with multiple people, including my best friend's straight boyfriend. Go figure. Fast forward a few years, I'm dating an awesome guy, and I'm working as a charity fundraiser collecting donations for non-profits on busy Toronto streets. I get angry or strange emails and texts from David once in a while, always changing my number and email address when he finds them out. I never responded. I'm informed that he moved to Montreal. I spot him a few times a year stalking me, poking his head around from behind a street corner while I'm working through my window as he walks around my neighborhood trying to figure out which house I live in were around my work office building. It made me very anxious every time. Every so often, he tries to infiltrate whatever group of friends he can connect me to. I see him pop up in social media photos with friends I have recently hung out with, despite living in a different city. I don't know how he was finding out these things about my personal life. However, all of this slows down as time goes on until a year or so passes with no sign of him, until I get an email last year saying that he wants to talk briefly about things that happened in our relationship. It's worded straightforwardly, not like the rants he used to send me, and I wonder if he wants to apologize. I don't respond, but I message a mutual friend whom I trust to find out how he is doing. My friend warns me that he still obsesses about me often, and that his mental health has declined, and they are no longer close friends because of it. He advises me never to speak to him again for both our sake. Out of morbid curiosity, I set up a fake Facebook account and creep his profile, sending me into a rabbit hole of links to his Tumblr and beyond. He is an artist now. I find a post with photos of one of his latest works, the creepiest zine I have ever seen. It depicted an extremely bloody scenario in a poem. I don't remember the poem exactly, but it was something about gruesomely murdering a boy who didn't love him back, describing the death in detail, and contending that he deserved it. I'm more than a little uneasy at this point. I'm actually scared. 6 years is more than enough time to get over your ex. This was obsession to an alarming level. I changed my email once more and asked our mutual friend to keep me updated if he ever decides to take a trip to my city. I also deleted my Facebook and most of my social media accounts, and I haven't seen any sign of him in over a year. I'm 27 now. I've worked through a lot of the issues that David let inside of me. Now I have a really kick-ass partner and a squishy cat. I'm a university student, and my life has been pretty rad. Still, I'm always expecting to get an email or to see him down the street. I sometimes wonder if this is over, or if anything will change when he tracks me down again. Maybe he's simply biding his time. So yeah, let's not meet again, stalker ex-boyfriend David, ever again. Alright, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching.